Hey there and welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing the promised video where I compare the eau de toilette and eau de parfum of L'Interdit. So I have had a good amount of time to play with the eau de toilette now, which I picked up more recently than the eau de parfum, which I've had for a while. And now I can kind of go through and explain my experience. If there are huge differences between the two, which one I'd recommend, if I recommend both, what have you. If you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe. I put out videos very often, so you'll be notified every time I put out a new video. And in the description box, you can follow me on Instagram as well. You can check the link there. So let's get into it. I will give a very short recap of why I even got interested in these fragrances in case you didn't hear about it in the 2 times I hauled them. Essentially, the story around L'Interdit, I'm a huge Audrey Hepburn fan, but I think a lot of people tended to like her, if only for, I don't know, her fashion or some of her movies or what have you. And I don't know, since like I was literally 3 years old, I've been obsessed. So I was even more, enchanted with this story of how, for those of you who know, she had a huge working relationship with Givenchy. As she was going through her movies and becoming a starlet and becoming, gaining fame, she worked very closely with Givenchy and the house in general for both her movies and personal life. She was very much his muse. And through that, there were other houses, obviously, like Creed. Spring Flower made a fragrance that was kind of inspired by her. Creed did that for a lot of famous people at the time. But Givenchy made this fragrance that at the time, I suppose, was unnamed, specifically for Audrey. And it was a bunch of her favorite notes, very tuberosy. I think at the time the OG formula was a little bit more powdery and lipsticky. That's what I've heard anyway. I've never tried the original. And now it's, basically impossible to find. And even if you did, you have no idea what quality of juice you're getting. So anyways, I was always really intrigued about that growing up, knowing that story. And then, I guess Givenchy decided to come out with newer versions, and that's where we are with the eau de toilette and the eau de parfum. But the version that existed, even the OG formula, was actually because when Givenchy asked Audrey Hepburn if he could bottle this fragrance that ended up being really great and that only she was using, she said, "C'est interdit," which basically means it's forbidden. And that's where he took afterwards, I suppose, whatever, in talks as friends, they had agreed that it would be sold and bottled to the masses, and he decided to kind of take that joke and name it L'Interdit, so the forbidden one, or the forbidden. And again, I have not tried the original. I'm really only going to be talking about this newer formulation, the eau de parfum and the eau de toilette. I do know that an eau intense, or the intense version, is already out or is coming out depending on where you live. I can safely say I won't be picking it up, and maybe that'll become more clear by the end of the video, but let's get into these 2 versions. So I'm gonna kind of talk about them back and forth because I think it's worth going back and forth between them rather than just talking about eau de parfum and then just eau de toilette, because in general, I will say they are very similar. I would say the average perfume lover, owner, fanatic does not need both, or indeed a third. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. Even for myself, now having explored it, I really didn't need both. And that's also why I won't get the third, because from what I heard, it is just very much in tune with these first 2 as well. There are slight differences, and we'll get into that. But I would say the average perfume owner doesn't need to have more than one. You can do, and maybe you'll decide which 2 you want, or if you want all 3 by, again, the end of the video. So we'll start out with bottle differences. The bottles, I have the 80 ml, so the largest, I think, bottles in both. So it's very easy to compare. They have different juice colors. They're both kind of like a light yellow. The eau de parfum is a darker yellow than the Eau de Toilette. The writing in the front is the exact same, L'Interdit Givenchy. The only difference is the Eau de Parfum is written in black, and the Eau de Toilette is written in kind of like a pinky beige tone. Then the bottom, again, they all have the same information except for Eau de Parfum, Eau de Toilette, obviously. The only difference is the Eau de Parfum actually has a black base, which personally I prefer than just a blank base. I feel like if they'd made this the same beigey pinky color as this, it would have been really nice, but whatever, that's just my taste. And then up here, this ribbon with this little like metal plaque thing. The Eau de Parfum has black on black, and the Eau de Toilette has gray on silver. Just looking at them, if I had to choose stylistically, I prefer the Eau de Toilette style. I think black on, you know, like a clear bottle is classier and, I don't know, just more visible, it stands out, than this kind of peachy beige. Then this isn't, you know, this is gray and the bottom is clear. I just think there was less synergy between the styles, but that's my personal taste. Then we get to the juice, which is the most important part, and I did side-by-side tests. Right now, I'll spray it just for the sake of spraying it, but in general, I really had to do multiple side-by-side tests, like, you know, work days and at night to really be able to come up with the most, I don't know, in-depth review I could. And I think I've reached a pretty good, I don't know, level of analysis on both scents. In general, very, very similar. I will start off with that. Very similar DNAs, very similar notes. The Eau de Toilette has a poppy note, which personally I don't get. And the Eau de Parfum has a lot more richy booziness to it, which I do get. I would say they are both very reliant on that tuberose and orange blossom mixture with some jasmine, but definitely tuberose, orange blossom. And I've said this before, what's interesting, which I love about this fragrance, but could be a turnoff, is that the tuberose is very bubblegummy and the orange blossom is very grapey. Both of those florals are doing both of those things in this fragrance. Then when you add, you know, the jasmine and the woody notes, they both have vetiver, which doesn't really, I mean, it shows up a little. They both have patchouli, which I do not get at all, personally. Anyways, all of that to say is both of those things are happening. So if you know that you don't like grapey orange blossom or bubblegummy tuberose because they're very strong and prominent, then you will not like either of them. You might have an easier time with the Eau de Toilette because it is lighter, but you really won't like either of them because they're very reliant on that same DNA. The other thing I will mention is the Eau de Parfum starts out a lot stronger. When I say booziness, I don't mean like rum, vodka per se, because it's not boozy in that way, but it's like it's richer, as if you made alcohol out of like that grapey orange blossom and bubblegummy tuberose with some jasmine in there, and it's woody and it's strong. It's definitely richer, it's definitely warmer, it's definitely stronger, and it has a lot, not a lot, but more noticeable sillage than the Eau de Toilette. What's interesting is that kind of stays the same in the heart, in the opening in the heart, but the dry down, the absolute dry down, for whatever reason, and I tried this a couple times, I personally didn't really understand how it could be the case, but the dry down of the Eau de Toilette is stronger than the dry down of the Eau de Parfum. Maybe it's just on my skin. I always think it's worth mentioning. If it's not the case for you, then it's not, but you might have similar body chemistry to me. The Eau de Parfum is undeniably stronger in the beginning and the heart, just as a scent in and of itself. But when it's, you know, when it's just a skin scent on your skin, the Eau de Toilette is a stronger skin scent than the Eau de Parfum. I cannot explain why. I don't understand why, but that happened time and time again. So it wasn't just, I don't know, like an off day where maybe I'd moisturize differently or what have you. It showed up every time I did this test. And the other thing I will mention is there is a crispness to the eau de toilette that is different than the boozy richness to the eau de parfum. It's hard to explain again because it's not boozy, like you're not gonna get kind of like a vanilla rum type thing. That's what I'm thinking when I say boozy. That's not what I mean. But there is a crispness that isn't necessarily citrus. It might be stronger in the vetiver, but there is like a fresher crispness to the eau de toilette. And there is a warmer, rounder, richer opening to the eau de parfum. In general, I would say if you like this fragrance and adore it as much as I do, this is a great one to wear spring, summer, high heat. And this is kind of fall, winter, colder weather. Because, and I'm a huge oversprayer, but I remember in the hottest heat days, L'Interdit Givenchy Eau de Parfum was a bit cloying. Even for me, that's a huge oversprayer and I love this fragrance, it can get cloying. Whereas this is a lot crisper and sharper in its opening, even slightly cleaner. And I think it'll cut through heat a lot better. I kind of bought them off season. Like I bought this when it was really hot and this as it's starting to get cold. But now that I have both and I know that I'm so in love with this fragrance, it kind of rounds everything that I would need L'Interdit to do for me. That kind of goes into why I wouldn't buy the Intense. I will try it perhaps in store just to see what it's like, but both are very strong scents. They both have great lasting power. Even the eau de toilette for an eau de toilette is really performing at a high level personally. And I really don't need L'Interdit Eau de Parfum to be any stronger. It is as strong as I need that fragrance to be. So I'm very happy having this for, you know, my colder or the days when I want it to really last. I can't imagine wanting it to be any stronger. The only way I would be interested in the Intense is if it's changing up the DNA in some way, which I don't think it is. So that's kind of like the full review. I think see what you want out of this fragrance. If you are somewhere where it tends to be hotter or a tropical climate, you might be better off just getting the eau de toilette because you might find that there's not enough days out of the year where you're wearing the eau de parfum, and vice versa. If you're living somewhere where, or just your taste is something that you don't need a crispness to it, you know you like these notes, then you might just be better off with the eau de parfum. If and only if you're an obsessive lover of L'Interdit, would I encourage you to get both, because that is the only reason why I don't regret it, is I know I love this fragrance, I know I love the DNA, and I'm very, very happy to have this kind of both of them carry me throughout the year because it's a fragrance I will be wearing throughout the year. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. As always, don't forget to leave more of your recommendations of what you thought in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!